Death does not change people. It unmasks them. You want to know what a family is really made of? Don't look at them around the Thanksgiving table. Look at them the day after the funeral. When the will is read and there's a house, a bank account, and a box of jewelry sitting on the table. That is when the claws come out. I have been a judge for a very long time, and I can tell you unequivocally that nothing evaporates the facade of a loving family faster than a couple of unsecured assets. People walk into my courtroom dressed in black, dabbing their eyes with tissues, trying to sell me on their profound grief. But it is almost never about grief. It is about money, plain, simple, unadulterated greed. That brings us to the miserable spectacle of Evelyn Vance versus her own niece, Megan Vance. Evelyn, the plaintiff, is the sister of the deceased. She marched up to the podium wearing a wide-brimmed black hat, a tailored suit, and a string of pearls that looked heavy enough to anchor a small boat. She had her chin tipped up, emanating that specific brand of haughty entitlement reserved for people who think they are inherently better than everyone else in the room. She is suing her niece for $5,000, the maximum limit in my court, for what she calls stolen inheritance and the unauthorized liquidation of family assets. Standing across the aisle is the defendant, Megan. Megan is 26 years old. She looks 50. She is wearing a plain gray sweater, her hair pulled back in a messy clip, and she has the deeply hollowed eyes of someone who has spent the last year sleeping in hospital chairs and fighting with hospice nurses. She is the daughter of the late Patricia Vance, Evelyn's sister, who passed away 4 months ago from a prolonged illness. Megan is the executor of her mother's modest estate. Miss Vance, I began looking dead at Evelyn. You are suing your niece for $5,000. You claim that she stole money from her mother's estate and fenced family heirlooms that rightfully belonged to you. Is that your claim? Yes, Your Honor, Evelyn said. Her voice was pure silk, practiced and dramatic. My sister Patricia and I were incredibly close. Before she passed, she verbally promised me our grandmother's antique diamond brooch and half of the remaining funds in her primary savings account. But the moment Patricia took her last breath, Megan locked the doors, drained the accounts, and sold the brooch. It's a travesty. She actually reached up and dabbed the corner of her completely dry eye with a lace handkerchief. I almost rolled my eyes. Put the handkerchief away, madam. I'm not buying a ticket to this performance, I told her flatly. We deal in facts here, not theatrics. Did your sister have a will? Evelyn sniffed, lowering the handkerchief. She didn't need one. We had an understanding. I stared at her. I let the silence hang in the air for a good 5 seconds so she could hear how stupid she sounded. An understanding, I repeated slowly. You are an adult woman pushing 60. You understand how the law works. When someone dies, understandings go to the grave with them. The law recognizes written wills, legally executed, and signed by witnesses. Did she have a will? No. Megan spoke up from the defendant's podium. Her voice was raspy, exhausted. She didn't have a will, Your Honor. It all went to probate. As her only child, I was named the executor and the sole beneficiary. I'm talking to the plaintiff right now, Miss Vance, I said sharply to Megan. When I need you to speak, I will ask you a question. Until then, keep your mouth shut. I turned my attention back to the aunt. So, Evelyn, your sister died intestate. That means she died without a will. Under the laws of every state in this country, when a single woman dies without a will, her estate passes to her children, not her sister, her children. By what stretch of the legal imagination do you believe you are entitled to half of her bank account? Because it was a joint account, Evelyn declared triumphantly, opening her leather binder. My name was on that account, Judge. So half of that money was legally mine. Ah, now we were getting somewhere. The magic joint bank account. I see this trick all the time. Elderly people or sick people put a relative's name on a bank account so that the relative can write checks for groceries and medical bills when they are too incapacitated to do it themselves. It is a convenience account. It does not mean the money belongs to the relative. Bird, I said, gesturing to my bailiff, bring me the bank statements. Officer Bird collected the paperwork from Evelyn and handed it up to the bench. I put on my glasses and started flipping through the pages. The account had been opened 10 years ago by Patricia. Evelyn's name was added to the account exactly 8 months ago. Right around the time Patricia's illness took a turn for the worse. Let's look at the history of this account, Evelyn, I said, tapping my pen against the paper. For 9 years, the only deposits made into this account were from your sister's pension and her Social Security checks. When your name was added 8 months ago, did you deposit any of your own money into this account? Evelyn shifted her weight. Well, no, but I cut her off instantly. Don't but me. Did you deposit a single dime of your own money into this account? Yes or no? No, she admitted her chin coming down just a fraction. So it was your sister's money, I stated. All of it. 100%. You were put on this account as a convenience signer so you could help her pay her bills while she was sick. Is that correct? She put me on there because she wanted me to have the money if anything happened to her, Evelyn argued, her voice rising. She told me, Evelyn, whatever is left in here when I'm gone is yours. Megan knew that, but the day before my sister died, Megan went to the bank and transferred every single penny out of that account. I looked over at Megan. She was standing perfectly still, her hands gripped tightly to the edge of the podium. Is that true, Megan? I asked. Did you drain the account the day before your mother died? Yes, Your Honor, Megan said quietly. I had the bank transfer the remaining balance into an estate account. Evelyn threw her hands up in the air. See? She admits it. She stole my money, Judge. It was $12,000, and she stole it from her own aunt while her mother was on her deathbed. Quiet, I barked at Evelyn, pointing my pen at her like a weapon. I did not say you could speak. You are going to stand there, you are going to keep your mouth shut, and you are going to listen, or I will throw your case out right now and you can go back to whatever country club you crawled out of. Do you understand me? Evelyn clamped her mouth shut, her face flushing a deep, angry red. She was not used to being spoken to this way. That's too bad. In my courtroom, you play by my rules. I turned my gaze back to the niece. The girl looked terrified, but beneath the terror, I could see a bedrock of absolute certainty. She hadn't taken that money to go on a vacation. I could tell just by looking at her, but I needed the facts. Megan, I said, my voice losing a bit of its edge, but remaining firm. You had power of attorney? Yes, Your Honor, Megan nodded. My mother gave me full financial and medical power of attorney when she went into hospice. Okay. So you had the legal right to move the money, I said, leaning forward. But I want to know why. Why did you empty the joint account the day before she passed away? Megan took a deep, shuddering breath. Because, Your Honor, my aunt wasn't paying my mother's bills. She was emptying the account herself. She was emptying the account, I repeated slowly. I took off my glasses, set them on the desk, and leaned back in my chair, staring at Evelyn. Miss Vance, were you using your dying sister's money for your own personal use? Evelyn's face flushed a deeper shade of indignant red. That is an outrageous accusation. I was caring for my sister. I was buying groceries, picking up prescriptions, paying for gas to drive her to appointments. Of course I used the card. That's what it was for. Is that all you used it for? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. Groceries and gas? Yes, she insisted, clutching her pearls as if they were a lifeline. Miss Vance, I said, picking up the stack of bank statements Bird had handed me. I have the statements right here. Let's take a little trip down memory lane, shall we? 3 weeks before your sister passed away, there was a charge for $350 at Salon de Beaute. Was your sister getting a makeover in her hospice bed? Evelyn sputtered. Well, I needed to look presentable for the doctors. I slammed my hand down on the desk. So you admit you used your sister's money for your own personal grooming. Let's continue. 2 weeks before she died, $400 at a high-end boutique. Did your sister need a new silk scarf while she was on morphine? Evelyn's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She didn't have an answer. 1 week before she died, I went on, my voice rising with each item. $180 at a steakhouse. Did she eat a filet mignon through a feeding tube? The courtroom was dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Megan was staring at her aunt with a mixture of disgust and sorrow that broke my heart. This woman had watched her mother die while her aunt was treating the bank account like a personal piggy bank. "You are a thief, madam," I said, my voice dripping with disdain. "You were stealing from a dying woman, and now you have the unmitigated gall to stand in my courtroom and sue her grieving daughter because she stopped you from stealing the rest of it?" "It wasn't stealing!" Evelyn shrieked, finally losing her composure. "She told me I could have it. She said, 'Evelyn, treat yourself.' She wanted me to be happy." "Oh, stop it," I roared. "Do not insult my intelligence with that garbage. Your sister was dying. She was not telling you to go buy designer clothes and eat steak dinners while her daughter was trying to figure out how to pay for a funeral. You are a disgrace." I turned to Megan. The girl looked like she was about to collapse. "Megan," I said, my voice softening instantly, "when you saw these charges, what did you do?" "I confronted her," Megan whispered, wiping a tear from her cheek. "I told her to stop spending Mom's money. She told me to mind my own business. She said Mom wanted her to have it. So the day before Mom died, I went to the bank with the power of attorney paperwork and moved everything into an estate account so it would be frozen until probate. I had to protect what was left to pay for the burial." "Smart girl," I nodded approvingly. "You did exactly the right thing. You stopped a predator in her tracks." I looked back at Evelyn. She was fuming, her chest heaving with indignation. She clearly still believed she was the victim here. "Now," I said, flipping to the next page of the complaint, "let's talk about the brooch. You claim your niece sold a diamond brooch that was promised to you. Where is this brooch?" "She sold it," Evelyn cried out, pointing an accusing finger at Megan. "That brooch belonged to our grandmother. It was a family heirloom. Patricia promised it to me years ago. But the minute she died, Megan pawned it." I turned to Megan. "Did you sell the brooch?" "Yes, Your Honor," Megan said quietly. "I sold it to a jeweler 3 weeks after the funeral." "Why?" I asked simply. "Because the funeral cost $8,000, Megan explained, her voice trembling, "and because my aunt had drained so much money from the checking account, there wasn't enough left to pay the funeral home. I had to sell the jewelry to pay for my mother's casket." I looked at Evelyn. The silence stretched out, heavy and suffocating. "Did you hear that?" I asked her, my voice low. "Did you hear what she just said?" Evelyn looked away, refusing to meet my eyes. She shouldn't have spent so much on a funeral. A simple cremation would have been fine. I gasped, literally gasped. I have heard some callous things in my 25 years on the bench, but that one took the cake. "A simple cremation would have been fine," I repeated, staring at her in disbelief. "So you could keep the diamond brooch? Is that what you're saying? Your sister deserved a pine box so you could wear her jewelry?" "It was my grandmother's," Evelyn snapped. "It should have stayed in the family." "It did stay in the family," I shouted, slamming my gavel down so hard it made Bird jump. "It paid for your sister's final resting place. That is the ultimate family use, you selfish, greedy woman." I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. My blood pressure was through the roof. This wasn't just a legal case, it was a moral failing of epic proportions. "Let me explain something to you about the law, Miss Vance," I said, leaning over the bench. My eyes locked onto hers. "When a person dies, their debts must be paid before anyone gets a single dime of inheritance. The funeral is a debt of the estate. The medical bills are a debt of the estate. Your niece, as the executor, had a legal obligation to pay those debts. If that meant selling a brooch, a car, or the clothes off her mother's back, she had to do it. The fact that she had to sell a family heirloom to bury her mother because you were busy eating steak dinners on the estate's dime is repulsive." Evelyn opened her mouth to argue, but I held up a hand. "Do not speak. I have heard enough from you. You have disgusted me thoroughly." I looked at the paperwork again. Evelyn was suing for $5,000. She wanted the value of the brooch and the half of the bank account she believed she was owed. Your lawsuit, I announced, picking up her complaint and holding it up like a piece of dirty laundry, is dismissed. It is frivolous. It is without merit. And frankly, it is offensive. I tossed the paper back onto the desk. But we are not done yet, I continued, a dangerous glint in my eye, because while you were busy suing your grieving niece, you forgot one little detail. When you filed this lawsuit, you opened yourself up to a countersuit. I looked at Megan's paperwork. She hadn't filed a formal countersuit for the money Evelyn spent, likely because she just wanted this nightmare to be over. But in small claims court, I have broad discretion to make things right. And today, I was going to use every inch of it. Megan, I said gently, you have evidence of unauthorized withdrawals from the joint account totaling. Let me see here. I did some quick mental math on the bank statements. $1,450 in the last month of your mother's life. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. Megan nodded. And you are the executor of the estate, I confirmed, which means that money belongs to the estate. It belongs to your mother. I turned back to Evelyn. She looked like she had swallowed a lemon. You spent $1,450 of a dying woman's money on yourself. I told her. You thought because your name was on the account, you could get away with it. You thought, who's going to stop me? She's dying. Well, guess what? I'm stopping you. I don't have that money anymore, Evelyn stammered, realizing the tide had turned disastrously against her. That is not my problem, I snapped. You will find it. You will sell your pearls. You will sell your hat. I don't care what you do, but you are going to pay that money back to the estate. I picked up my pen and started writing furiously on the judgment form. I am entering a judgment for the defendant on the plaintiff's claim, I declared, my voice ringing out with finality. Case dismissed. Furthermore, I am finding that the plaintiff misappropriated funds from the estate. I am ordering the plaintiff to repay the estate of Patricia Vance in the amount of $1,450. Evelyn gasped. You can't do that. I didn't agree to that. You came into my courtroom, I shouted. You submitted to my jurisdiction, and in my courtroom, justice is served, whether you like the flavor or not. I looked at Megan. She was crying again, but this time they were tears of relief. The weight of her aunt's bullying had finally been lifted. Megan, I said softly, go home. Mourn your mother. Forget this woman exists. She is not your family. Family is the people who stand by you when things are hard, not the people who pick your pockets at the funeral. Megan nodded, sniffing. Thank you, Judge. Thank you so much. Don't thank me, I said briskly, gathering my papers. Just make sure you cash her check the second it arrives. And if it bounces, you call me. I slammed the gavel down one last time. We are finished here. I stood up and swept out of the courtroom, my robes billowing behind me. As I walked past Evelyn, who was still standing at the podium with her mouth open in shock, I didn't even give her a second glance. Some people are beyond redemption. Next case, Bird, I called out as I entered my chambers. And please tell me it involves a dog. I prefer dogs to people like her any day of the week.